Thanks for joining us. I'm Liz Exon. Governor Mary Fallin has set a date of December 18th for a second special session of the legislature to fill the budget hole for this current fiscal year. The last special session failed to come up with a bill the governor would accept. In the meantime, she has issued an executive order some educators find troubling. Governor Mary Fallin vetoed much of the last bill lawmakers sent her at the end of the special session in November, saying it did not provide for a teacher pay raise and that it did not provide a long-term solution to reoccurring budget deficits. Following that, this announcement from the governor puzzled many observers.
The order directs the State Board of Education, with the assistance of the State Superintendent of Public Instruction, to compile a list by September 1st of 2018, plenty of time, of every public school district that spends less than 60% of its budget on instructional expenditures.
The governor said once those districts are identified, they will be asked to cut administrative costs by consolidating services with other districts.
And it's important that we send a greater percentage of our taxpayer dollars directly to support the classroom and to support the teachers rather than non-instructive costs. And that's why I've issued this order.
Sean Heim is the executive director of the Oklahoma School Boards Association. He says the governor's words amounted to political rhetoric in order to placate a small number of lawmakers who blocked an acceptable budget deal.
Some of the very conservative legislators who are anti-tax but have been talking about making cuts rather than raising taxes, it appears her hope was that this could get them on board with increasing revenue for the current session if she promised to look at consolidation in the future.
Kent Holbrook is the superintendent of Inola Public Schools.
You could fire every superintendent in the state, go to one superintendent. You'd still have the 49th lowest funded school system in the United States. And in some areas, it's 50th, I believe.
He and other educators interviewed for this story say what the public might not understand is administrative costs go far beyond a superintendent's office. Owasso School Superintendent Clark Ogilvie says instructional costs are defined very narrowly.
That only includes the teacher, the textbook, some classroom supplies. That's all we're taking into consideration there. Okay, would you also say that we should take into consideration the cost of a counselor, a nurse, a librarian, a custodian, all those folks, food service person? I just named 5 different groups there. Would you agree that all of those are necessary to have school? Yeah. I think you would.
We have students with special needs. They need OT, they need PT, we've got speech. Those teachers are not in the classroom, so even those teachers are considered administrative costs.
Superintendent of Pawhuska Schools, Janet Newfield, is offended by the governor's executive order.
It's terribly insulting. We have a fairly small budget, a $7.2 million budget, and I can tell you where every dime goes.
Heim says right now very few of the state's 500 school districts spend 60% of their budget on instruction.
The 60% number is an impossible number. The only states in the nation that reach 60% in instruction are all over $12,000 per pupil in expenditure. You may ask, why would that be? Well, buses cost the same, utilities cost the same. They're investing more money in teacher salaries.
Stacy Butterfield is the superintendent of Jenks Public Schools.
If we were to invest money in our teacher salaries, which relates directly to instructional services in the classroom, which relates directly to that 60%, we would have a much easier time in reaching that 60%.
Ogilvie says if lawmakers were to get serious about consolidation, they would consolidate entire school districts, not just administrative costs.
There are over 100 K-8 school districts in this state. Well, everyone says we don't need over 100 K-8 school districts. But I don't see any effort by the legislature or the governor to close those schools. As a matter of fact, I don't see any effort by the legislature or the governor to close any school.
Holbrook offers another option.
One of the ways that you can get that administrative cost down is to go to a 4-day week. And I don't think any of them are for it.
Holbrook says Inola was forced to go to a 4-day school week last year.
If we stayed at a 5-day week and I cut 5 teachers in my elementary, we were going to 30 kids in a classroom, 30, 31.
Educators we talked to say Oklahoma can make no gains without investing in education.
So we're cutting what we're investing in the future, more so than any other state.
It's hard to understand why we don't all want an educated workforce, because I don't know how you can attract industry and the kinds of folks you need in Oklahoma if you don't have educated communities.